what's been a thrilling season of Champions League football. And to celebrate that, I've got Nikki Bandini and Julien Laurens with me to try and pick their top 3 players from this season. Now, the decision is who wants to go first.
Nikki first.
Nikki first?
Yeah.
Can you take that pressure?
Kind. I don't mind. But the question is, am I naming all 3 right away, or am I just picking one and then we go back?
Let's add more jeopardy. We're going to go 3, 2, 1.
Oh my God.
So please, your number 3 for this year's Champions League is?
Okay, I'm going to go with Lautaro Martinez.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Make a case.
I think it's going to get really squeezed when it gets to the top of this. And I also think it's a little bit unfair asking us to do this before the final, because I do think
It's what we do. Welcome. Welcome.
Because I think that our judgments on this will be formed in big part by the final. But I think for me, if you're talking about who the best players in the tournament are, of course I'm looking first of all at the 2 teams who are in the final, and I'm asking myself who has done the most to get them to that final. And listen, there's a long list for Inter you can make a case for. It's not as simple as going, oh, it's Inter, it's Lautaro. The whole team has been fantastic. But I think he's stood up and taken on that responsibility of being the guy who's supposed to do those things in the big moments for Inter. So for me, I think he belongs in this top 3.
I believe that. I'm going to stick with Nikki for now. How about number 2?
Oh, you want me on number 2 as well?
I want the 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so this is going to
And
give
then you will be judged.
Yeah, this will give you a hint where I'm going with my number 1.
Please
although I
carry
think
on,
even that's going to be an interesting one. But for number 2, some of the same logic, it's Ousmane Dembele, because I think I'm waiting to see which of him or Lautaro gets to promote themselves to number 1 in the final. I'm giving them both sitting just behind for now.
Okay.
But yeah, he's been ridiculously, relentlessly prolific, and he's done it in big games for PSG. I think he's definitely in the top 3, and the only question is, where is he in that top 3?
And who is the only player that's done better in this tournament for you? Who is number 1?
So you do want me to do all 3?
I do want you to do all 3.
Okay, and this is where I already can feel the anger coming my way, because
Listen, football. Nothing builds anger like this.
It's one of 2, clearly from that Barcelona team, in my opinion.
Go on.
And I know that everyone, completely rightly, I'm not even disagreeing, is going to want it to be Yamal because he's ridiculous. But I think if we're talking about player of the tournament, sometimes things like numbers come into it, and Raphinha's numbers are stupid. They're stupid in this tournament. He's the joint top scorer. He's the top assist provider. And I think even in that ridiculous semi-final against Inter, when we're all just going wild for the things that Yamal does with the ball at his feet, it was Raphinha again scoring some huge goals. So to me, I think Raphinha edges it. But look, I know who's at number 4. I know that I think he should be in the top 3. I just can't work out who to pull out.
Jules?
It's hard to follow this.
Do you have any issues with a list to start with?
No, absolutely. I can hear it. I think then it's all very subjective of what we feel, and your 3 will be different than Nicky's and mine, and people watching and disagreeing and maybe abusing us on social media too, but hey, this is another story. My number 3 is the same as Nicky, actually. I think Lautaro is good in number 3 position. It's a good bronze medal. He's been very good at times in the league phase with the team that was defensive minded, very much so. I think he struggled maybe a little bit more, but then in the knockout stages where Inter have opened up a little bit more, you see how important it is to them. I think he's a bit underrated. I've said that before. I think he gives you everything that you want from a number 9. I'm still not sure he can play as a lone striker, but in a front 2, like him and Thuram, he makes Thuram looks better. He holds the ball up well. He's a great finisher. He runs, he presses, he's smart. He's quite strong for a smaller guy. I think he really has everything, and I don't really understand why he's not hyped a little bit more. So we're hyping him by putting him in 3rd.
And who's second for you?
Second is the Lamine Yamal conundrum. Where do you put him? Where do you put Raphinha? Raphinha is 4th in my ranking, because I go for I'm the Parisian here. I'm the romantic. I go for the flair. I want the sparkles. I want that kind of like.
Je ne sais quoi.
You said it before me.
Sorry,
I want to.
Excuse me.
How do you say like?
Excuse me.
Get off my seat. Get off my seat.
Yeah, get off your seat. Yeah.
Raphinha is great, and he doesn't really make me move up from my seat.
Okay. The goals don't matter.
No, so
I
love goals, of course. I love goals, and he's got assists too to his game. Like to go back to Nicky's point, and some of them have been great goals, great free kicks, great shot from the outside of the box, great finishing 1-on-1 with the keeper. He's really improved on that level, and I think he deserves credit for that. The player I saw at Rennes was nowhere near the level that we see, and that was not that long ago. Same at Leeds. So credit to it. I just love the magic. And Raphinha for me doesn't scream magic. When Lamine screams magic, not just he's the magician that makes the magic, and the magic for all the other magicians in the world.
And all this is to say Dembele is number 1.
Hey! I mean, I'm not sure I could have gone back to Paris if I hadn't put Dembele as number one. So, Ousmane, my brother, for everything he's done, how he's transformed this game, how he transformed the perception that we all had or all have on him, he's my number one. I think he's a great number one. He's a great guy to have in the dressing room because he has everything.
It's so crazy when you think that's like the opposite of what people said about him for a long time.
Yeah, of course.
Really the opposite.
But I can understand why people used to say that because he used to play on PlayStation until 3 a.m., then fall asleep, then wake up too late, was late at training, and people didn't like it. I understand there was not that discipline that maybe you need to have when you're a professional player with his qualities to make it to a higher level. And at 27, he finally got there. He got married. He put, I think, a lot of discipline in his own life. And also, Luis Enrique has been great to him by making him realize that you have to be the leader, and leaders behave in a certain way on and off the pitch. And he's very much the leader of that team now, and playing him as a 9 centrally. So where from the 2 wings where he used to play before has made a massive difference. A good one for context. Ousmane Dembele's best friend, Mustafa, has a watch shop. And they made a bet at the start of the season that if Dembele could score more than 30 goals, then he could go into the shop and choose the watch that he wanted as a gift, right? And for a long time, that it looked impossible. He would not get to 30 goals. He never got to 30 goals in his career every season. He got to 30 goals, so we said, okay, and we're talking about big, expensive watches. So the other day I said to Ousmane, did you get the watch, by the way? It was 2 watches. And he said, no, because I'm a player. So he went for double and quit. If there's a win in the Champions League final, and if he scores, then he would get 4 watches, not just 2. So, Ousmane,
just so
it's
clear,
your
by the
time.
way. Just so clear, he said he spoke to Dembele. Just he drops things in.
No,
there.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right, I've heard your top 3s. They're fine.
Oh, wow, okay.
Did you see that expression? So dismissive.
I know, just like-
No,
Yeah.
they're very good. I understand everything you're saying, and it's been such a long Champions League campaign this year with so many games. As you start to talk about the players, the memories start coming back in there. And I think for you, Jules, when you're talking about like Dembele and him being in the 9, I think that's one of the most significant tactical changes that we saw from any teams throughout the Champions League. And then for us as well, looking at Raphinha, I probably didn't expect him to be top scorer in the whole competition. But my 3, I've got Yamal at 3. I have changed my mind about who's going in at 2, and I'll put Dembele at 2. And for me, Raphinha has to go 1.
Seno Lautaro.
Yeah, sorry, I apologise, Lautaro. Are there any players that we failed to mention here who obviously had a really good Champions League, and also perhaps players who you expect to have a really good Champions League campaign next season as well? How about you, Jules?
I think Pedri could easily be in the conversation. I think he's been a wonderful, wonderful player in that midfield. One of the best midfielders in the world too. Like, to go back to some others that we've mentioned already, I also think that Declan Rice, I think, showed in this Arsenal team with a lot of injuries through the team that he can play at this level. And I think for a player like that who never played Champions League football until last season, to show what he can do at these kind of stages is great.
How about you, Nicky?
I think, to pick up on you saying next season, I reckon Kvaratskhelia next season will be in that conversation. But I think you could pick several from, if we weren't so focused, and we always are on forwards, you could pick several from maybe either of the 2 teams in the final. I think Vitinha's had an extraordinary tournament. You could put him in. If we ever talked about goalkeepers, I could imagine someone like Donnarumma for
We
the
don't need to
saves
talk
he's
about
made.
goalkeepers, it's fine.
I think the 4 that we've talked about, to me, are in a separate group this year from the others.
So I was actually going to have Hakimi in at 2. And then I felt the energy in the room, and I felt the peer pressure.
Remind me what position you used to play?
And then I used to play in defence, yeah. But then
Ooh,
the pressure got to me.
Just a bit of a right back union here,
the pressure got to me, and I decided to give them goals because you want to see those goals. And Dembele scored so many that it would feel odd for him to be on the outside.
But Hakimi is in the conversation as well. Go back to what kind of players we neglected a little bit in our top 3. I think you were right.
Well, some people might say I was wrong, but now we know the top 3s. Do you think this is going to have any bearing on who's going to win the Ballon d'Or?
I think that the Ballon d'Or typically does take in a pretty big element of who wins some trophies.
Okay.
So I do think that if Dembele wins the Champions League, he would go straight to the top of my list. I think that's just one of those things that happens, especially if he has a big contribution in the final. And I think that it's not totally impossible, but harder, definitely harder, that if Lautaro shows up in the final and scores a hat-trick, that people would suddenly go, hang on, he's done it this year, he deserves it. So I do think finals play a part in it. And I'm curious to see whether or not the Club World Cup this summer will have any impact in people's thinking. It's a bit of a strange one because a lot of the top European clubs aren't involved. But I don't know yet with this new format if it's going to register a bit more in people's minds than it used to, if people are going to pay more attention. And if they do, maybe we'll see some performances there that also move the needle. But
So who's your pick right now?
I think probably my pick, even though I didn't put him as player of the tournament, is Dembele. But it's a tight one, and I think it's too early in the year to say for sure.
Okay, Jules.
I think a lot of it would depend on the final and who does well or who doesn't. I'm not sure the Club World Cup will have an impact. I mean, we know now the ceremony will be on September 22nd, which feels quite early, because sometimes if you have a good start of the following season, that can count for people who vote, especially late voters. Like September is really early for the following season. So yeah, I think if Usman gets there, I think it'd be very hard for him not to get it. And I also think that a bit what we saw with Liverpool a few years ago, there might be a bit split voting. Is that what you say? Split voting sharing the votes between Barcelona players. So Lamine would get a few, Pedri might get some, maybe even Lewandowski. That could be to the detriment of Raphinha, who has to be also one of the favourite to win it. And I think that could, help Dembele to win it.
So are we of the thinking that if Dembele has a really good final, and maybe walks off with man of the match from that final, you think he's potentially going to be the Ballon d'Or? Is that what we think?
Yeah,
it would give him a huge step towards, I think, yeah.
I think it'd be a good year if he gets a couple of watches and a Ballon d'Or.